I am a family historian, or maybe I should really say family history researcher, and I thought that because we're in this strange situation at the moment where I can't actually do the thing that I really love, which is to go out to the archives and research for myself and for other people, I thought I need something to do. I'm going to make myself a YouTube channel. The thing that interests me about family history really is simply that all family history research is different because all family trees are made up of different people, and people are always interesting, whatever period in history they lived in. Now, family history I think can be quite inspirational. A lot of people get into it because they're just trying to answer a simple question. It might even be a question about yourself, or something like, where did my middle name come from? One of my middle names is Lucy, and I always believe that that was inspired either by my great aunt Lucy or possibly her mum, my great grandma Lucy. But then you start to think about that and you think, well, why was great grandma called Lucy? And it turns out, yes, actually she was named after her grandma, and that Lucy was named after her aunt, and that aunt also had an aunt called Lucy. It's actually really strange to think that I've got a middle name that has been carried down through my family for generations that may, in a strange way, have been inspired by somebody who was born in 1773. Maybe you are actually motivated by something a bit more exciting, shall we say. If Grandad could remember walking to the big manor house 2 or 3 miles away to pay the rent with his mum, is that a clue that the land that they owned was actually part of the manor house estate? Why is a story passed down that great-great-granddad died in Canada when in fact all the records show that he was committed to the county lunatic asylum, suffering from what we'd call a mental breakdown in today's terms? Probably in that kind of case because of the social stigma, I suppose. So you've got all these kind of things that you start to look at. You learn a bit about how people lived in that time and what they thought was important and what they thought was to be brushed under the carpet. So it never hurts to sort of sketch out a tree, even at the very, very beginning of your research, just to see even something as simple as where are the gaps in the information that you got. But where there are gaps in your information, there are also things to explore, and that is when you can start to personalise your research, because at the end of the day it's your family, so why not focus on things that interest you? Why have you got to research in the same way as everybody else? You might want to find out what the church looked like where several generations were baptised, married and buried. You might want to know whether that church was somehow significant to their family. If they were a rich family, did they pay for a stained glass window or something like that? And could they afford a gravestone that you can go and look at now? If you might perhaps find it useful to get hold of an old map. Ordnance Survey maps definitely go back to the 1840s in Great Britain, certainly. So you might be able to find out things like where the factory was that they worked. How far was it a long way from their house? Was it just round the corner? Is the factory still there? Has it been converted into apartments or one of those shopping village type facilities? You could look at the research in any way you want. You don't have to search in a particular way. Do it your way. What sort of work did they do, and could that have impacted on the rest of their family? I mean, I found a distant cousin, Martha, who lived in Selston in Nottinghamshire, in 1891, and her husband and 7 children are with her, and of those, the husband and 2 eldest sons are coal miners. I wonder whether everybody was having a bath every night. I wonder how she managed the washing. I wonder how she managed to heat all that water, if that's what they did, without the benefit of modern plumbing and modern central heating. You might be looking at somebody at the other end of the social scale. One of my ancestors was described on his son's marriage certificate as a cotton spinner, so I thought he was just somebody working in a mill. He owned the mill, and he employed about 160 people. And when you look at him on the 1861 census, you find that he and his wife and 5 of the children are living there with a handful of servants and a governess even. If they could afford a governess for their girls and another couple of the children are away at school, sounds like quite a wealthy family. Which I then learnt that the Governesses Institution of London and Manchester used to keep a register of details of available governesses, and they would not accept any candidate onto their books who would accept a salary of less than £25 a year. Apparently that equates to £17,000 a year, so it's not a massive sum. But I suppose the lady would have the compensation of a room of her own. Hopefully she would have board and lodging, food, she'd have secure accommodation, and maybe she'd get a thank you at the end of her time, perhaps a financial thank you at the end of her time working with one particular family. They might then recommend her to another rich family that they know, and then she'd find another job from there. There's all these kind of options that you might want to look at. Ask living relatives. Believe it or not, they might not think they know very much, but they can tell you an awful lot of information. I'm hoping, of course, that you do have some living relatives somewhere to ask who have got good memories or who are happy to talk about things that they know about the family. Not everybody is, and it's not always a good idea to push it, because you don't really know sometimes what family disputes you might uncover. So that's something to bear in mind from an ethical standpoint. Another way of looking at family history is that it can be a really good opportunity to hone your skills as a researcher. Just by looking up ancestors, you are actually looking into all sorts of historical records. It might be parish records, it might be census records, it might be finding out about how to order a will or a marriage certificate. And actually, now that I have been researching my family tree for probably about 20 years now. It was definitely before the millennium. And when I think back to the fact that I studied history at that time, and I was answering exam questions and essays and all that sort of thing, I'm actually really embarrassed about how poor my attempts to answer those questions were and construct arguments were. I could do a lot better now. It's a skill that you only learn with time, really. It's the nice thing about family history is that it's a skill that you are always able to develop in some way. I think you're always exploring something, and that is what makes it fun. And obviously it's not a straightforward subject. There is no beginning, middle and end, because it's all to do with people, and sometimes people disappear or change their names, or that even in the 19th century, people used to co-marry, couldn't get divorced because it was too expensive, so they then cohabit with somebody else and take on their name. Never underestimate the capacity of the human being to surprise. Because family history is based on what human beings have been doing, you've also got to allow that there might be a little bit of human error. We all want to present ourselves in the best way possible. So when you find a record that maybe looks like it pretty much does match up with the person that you're looking for. It seems to confirm everything except maybe one tiny, tiny detail. Don't immediately discount it. One interesting case I found was when an ancestor of mine got married for the second time. It took me a long, long time. I had to look at that record several times before I saw the W that meant that he was a widower. And then I found the marriage licence relating to that same ceremony, which again confirmed that he was a widower. But according to him, he was 40 years old when he married for the second time. He knocked about 10 years off his real age, but his second wife was a year older than his eldest daughter from the first marriage. So what she thought about it, I cannot tell you. I don't know what his new wife thought about it either. But, you know, people do manipulate the truth to show themselves in a better light. Sometimes it's the big life events when people are born, married and died that can often tell you so much. They're the essential building blocks of the family tree, and information relating to those events can be pretty useful. And of course a will is made before somebody dies and is read after they died. And in the case of my cotton factory owner ancestor who I mentioned, his father actually put a clause into his will which said that if either of his daughters, who were still then unmarried, were to marry anybody who served in the army or the navy, they would lose everything that he had arranged for them to inherit. He singles out his youngest daughter, and he says that under no circumstances is she to marry the village schoolmaster, because sometimes people leave really strange things in wills. I've got an ancestor also on my dad's side who left two of his daughters a bed each, complete with you know, the blankets and the bed curtains and all the other accoutrements that go with a bed, mattresses, blankets, what have you. But the bequest that I loved the most was the one that he made to his grandson, who was then about 25 years old, because he left the grandson his best red waistcoat. Now, this man died in 1819, just after Jane Austen died, so that I've just got this picture of him wearing this sort of Mr. Darcy-esque best red waistcoat that he puts on every Sunday to go to church. And I think, yeah, a 70-something-year-old man, I would have loved to have seen that. Something like that just brings people to life, doesn't it? And that is what makes family history so interesting to me. Please let me know if you enjoyed the video. If you've got any questions, please leave questions for me. I like questions, I like challenges. I would really like to know, especially if anybody has got anything that puzzles them about family history that they would maybe like me to talk about in a future video, because this isn't the only one that I plan to make. I plan to make a few more, and I want them to be useful for people. So I particularly specialise in Lancashire research in the northwest of England, but saying that, a lot of the things that I've found, you can transfer those research skills to other parts of the country very, very easily. So there's always things that you can ask that I might be able to help with somehow. Hopefully, maybe it will just help everybody understand a little bit about what family history researchers do, and also possibly why they get so excited when they talk about it. Yeah, thank you for listening, and I would love to know whether you enjoyed this video or not.